bare knuckle boxing, drug abuse, and the disenfranchised. We're not talking about Midwest America. This is Fightworld. Fightworld is the 2018 documentary series on Netflix produced by Frank Grillo's production company. The series follows Frank Grillo, a lifelong fight enthusiast around the world, to 5 different locations where he talks to several different fighters, both new and old champions, and introduces people to their unique martial arts and why they do what they do. So as you guys know, when I talk about TV shows, I talk about the good, the bad, and I give you my score. That being said, let's talk about the good. First off, these are real martial artists, real fighters practicing their art. You can see it in their broken bones, their bruises, their cuts, all that kind of stuff. You can see it right there on the screen. So this is legit. This is real. I really like the disciplines that they featured in the show. Some of them aren't what you would expect, especially from the first season of a show. They would have gone with something more typical, but they kind of went out of their way and did some different stuff. First off, you got Mexican boxing, which is a very aggressive style of boxing. But the thing is, the boxers in this segment are criminals. They are former drug addicts trying to get better. They are women. It's a lot of people that you wouldn't expect to be featured in a show about fighting. Then the show moves to Thailand, where they feature Muay Thai fighters, but this time it focuses on the youth, teenage fighters, their fight camps, and how they're treated, how they're raised, and their aspirations. Then we head over to Burma and we meet the Lethwei fighters. Lethwei is kind of like Muay Thai, but it's much more aggressive. It's all bare knuckles, no bandages, and headbutting is encouraged. So these fighters are hard as nails. For the 4th episode, we head to Senegal, where we meet 2 wrestlers. And I say wrestlers loosely because they are wrestlers, they are boxers, they are everything. These guys are massive, but they are very fast, surprisingly so. But the thing that they're fighting for is really interesting. They are fighting for the pride of their city. You know, once a year, these guys will meet, they'll fight, and these 2 guys are the baddest in the country. So whoever wins, their neighborhood becomes the pride of the nation. So it's a big deal for them and their neighborhood. And the final episode takes place in Israel. Scratch that, Palestine. There we meet a bunch of no-nonsense instructors who specialize in the martial arts of Krav Maga. This is one of the strongest martial arts because it's very cutthroat, it's very fast, to the point, and it's all about disabling and killing your opponent. But what's more interesting about the show is the combat and these different martial arts kind of take a back seat to the fighters themselves, to the culture that they live in, the families and the camps that surround them. It's really, really cool. It's really interesting. So it's a lot deeper than check out this fighter. There's been a bunch of shows where different fighters go around the world and they show what these martial arts are, but they've never delved into the behind the scenes, what the fighters are dealing with, you know, their poverty, what they're trying to accomplish, what the people around them think. This is the first fight documentary show that has really gone into those issues, and I like it a lot because of that. But more importantly, it shows how martial arts can help you become a better version of you through self-discipline, meditation, and it's not just about you becoming a better person. It's the single-minded focus on you besting your opponent. Yes, some people might be doing it because they don't like their lot in life. They want to take themselves out of their situation. They want to achieve greatness. They want to achieve financial success, and they want to go someplace else. Others just want to find inner peace. They just want to master this martial art, get good at it, something that they can take pride in, and that's it. And those different reasons, those different motivations are all highlighted in Fightworld. And yeah, okay, everybody knows I have a bit of a man crush, or whatever you call it, for Frank Grillo. He's just a super cool guy. He's down to earth. He's 53 years old, and yet he's in great condition. He looks young because he takes care of himself, something that a lot of guys should aspire to. He's like an old school American actor, like a Steve McQueen. And that's why I think with Fightworld, he became the best host that I've ever seen aside from Anthony Bourdain. Now, Anthony Bourdain actually influenced him to want to make this show. He saw Parts Unknown, and he thought, man, this would be really cool, but if somebody did it about fighting instead of food. And honestly, it works well. Now, Frank Grillo doesn't speak as whimsically as Anthony Bourdain. He's not sitting there trying to wax poetic. He's not basically writing a novel while he's hosting a show, as Anthony Bourdain did. Now, Anthony Bourdain wasn't forcing it. That's just who he was. Frank Grillo brings something else to the table. He brings this infectious enthusiasm. He brings a sense of earnestness and a obviously very physical presence. He genuinely cares about what's going on around him. He takes legit interest in what people have to say, what they're doing, what their motivations are. And you can see that it is genuine. It's not fake. It's not for the cameras. And like I said, he's 53, but he brings this childlike curiosity and giddiness to his role as a host. And that includes a penchant for horseplay. You see him all the time in the show, slap boxing or wrestling, with the fighters, and just doing it for fun. And I think that's cool. He really lets his guard down, and I think that's key when you're trying to find a connection with people. I know when I make documentaries and all that kind of stuff, I talk to people just like I would anybody else. I just try to make them see that I'm just another person. I'm into what they're into, and that's why I'm trying to feature it, and that they can be relaxed and they can be themselves. And honestly, between Frank Grillo and all of these fighters that are featured in the show, it has 10 times more heart than most dramas on television or most movies have. And the best part is that this show is legit. It is a documentary. Nothing's made up. Everything is what it really is. So not everybody wins, and when people lose, they show the consequences, whether it be the bruises and the blood, people's disappointment around them, or sometimes even verbal abuse. They don't hide anything. There's real consequences for the fighters, their families, their fight camps. Everything depends on basically these fighters' skill in the ring. And if they lose, a lot of stuff can go wrong. And if they win, a lot of stuff can go right. Not just for themselves, but everybody around them, everyone who's working with them. So yes, the content is legit, but what about the execution of the show? Plenty of documentaries can be informative, but they can be boring as shit. Honestly, for me, being a cinematographer and a documentarian, this is the best looking show on television that I have seen since maybe Parts Unknown. And I think it actually looks better than Parts Unknown more often than not. Now, when it comes to making documentaries, framing and using natural light to your advantage while you're running and gunning is very important. You can be working with someone for months and months, or possibly even years, depending on what film you're making. And it comes down to one moment. If you miss that shot, you've ruined the entire thing. And, you have great slow motion parts, you have all these little playful moments, you have a lot of things. The editing of the show, the shot selection, the stuff that they tie together, coupled with the music, really has a strong emotional impact for the viewer. I know it had one on me. Even when they talked in Israel to the IDF guys and stuff like that, certain things they said struck a chord, which is saying a lot. There's a lot of great moments in the show where Frank Grillo meets some pretty famous fighters, and you see a mutual respect. And the thing is, Frank Grillo doesn't call himself a fighter, he calls himself a fight fan. But fighters recognize fighters. And he's been training in mixed martial arts and boxing, kickboxing, all this different stuff for a long time. So they see that and they recognize that. I love how they show that fighting really brings different people together, no matter what, ethnic descent or economic background that they're from. All that matters is your drive, your skill, and what you can do in the ring and how you train. You can be young, you can be old, you can be new, you can be a champion. It doesn't matter. If you are a fighter or training to be a fighter, that's what matters. Honestly, I can't wait for season 2. I think this was an amazing show, and I'm actually going to go back and watch it again just because the first time I watched it, I was kind of trying to take everything in that was happening, and there's a lot going on between the imagery and the music and the fighters and, Frank Grillo's presentation. It's all top notch. But that's it for the good. Let's talk about the bad. There's only 5 episodes. Now, granted, after these 5 episodes are done, you really feel satisfied. It's like a nice meal, you finished it. I think I'd like to try that again. So it leaves you wanting. Now that's a good thing, but kind of a bad thing because this show took a year of production. Frank Grillo and the crew traveling all over the world. It took them a year to make it. That means we have at least a year before the second season comes out. That kind of sucks. Now some of the situations revolving around the fighters, whether it be crime, drugs, the different drama of their families, the abuse, the way that some of the trainers treat their fighters. It may be a bit much for normal viewers because they're not used to these type of things. It can be pretty gritty, but the thing is, that's the type of viewer who really needs to watch this show and to experience more things. Most Americans haven't traveled outside of America, so they have a very limited view of what people are like and what they deal with. So it's always good when they can travel vicariously through some shows like this and learn about what people are dealing with and maybe be more understanding of that. One of the things I wasn't a big fan of was the episode in Palestine. Now, granted, there's a lot of stuff that we can get into, and I'm not going to go that deep into it because, this isn't a politics show. They definitely could have been a little more nuanced, aside from Israel good, Palestine bad, we fight. I mean, let's be honest, if a bunch of people came to America and they slowly started taking your land, you guys would want to fight. Look at Jericho, look at Red Dawn. People love that show, people love that movie, and that's because it was showing the Americans fighting the bad guy and taking our land back. Honestly, it's kind of the same thing, except this is real and it has very deadly consequences. But all that stuff aside, let's get back to talking about the show itself. I think non-fight fans won't really get this show as much. They might watch part of the first episode, oh, it's about a bunch of fighters, no thanks. They're not going to get to see those deeper issues of the stuff that they show as the series goes on. They're not going to see what martial arts and fighting can do for people. But that's really all I have to say about the bad, because there's not a lot of things to dislike about the show. The show is just well made. Am I maybe putting more meaning into the show than what it's trying to say? Sure, but the fact that this show made me think about these things speaks a lot to its narrative and what it was trying to accomplish. But all that being said, what is my score? Drum roll, please. 8 out of 10.